welcome to Have Guitar Will Travel, presented by Vintage Guitar Magazine, with your host, me, James Patrick Regan, otherwise known as Jimmy from the Deadlies. And today I'm speaking with guitarist, manufacturer, and PR person Josh Vittek. Josh is a legendary fixture at NAMM, placing artists in booths and running PR for a lot of the companies whose booths we love, as well as press releases for most of the cool manufacturers. He also owns Sheptone, which manufactures pickups, and is a partner with Doyle the Misfits and Von Frankenstein Monster Gear, which manufactures strings. In our conversation, Josh tells us about the clients he's worked with and how he got involved with Sheptone and Doyle Von Frankenstein. He also explains the need for Von Frankenstein strings. Josh describes moving to Central Illinois from San Diego and the reason behind that. And Josh talks about growing up in San Diego, playing, taking apart, and putting back together guitars, and working for Carvin in a few different facets, and all the ups and downs that led him to where he is now. Josh talks about the NAMM show and putting artists in booths and some of the crazy stuff that's gone down. And Josh also gives us some insight as to what marketing means to instrument manufacturers in the current market. He also talks about the importance, or lack thereof, of having a celebrity attached to your product. Finally, Josh tells us about the benefits of restoring a 200-year-old home in rural Illinois. For more information on what Josh does, you can check out his website, VittekPR.com. That's VITTEK-PR.com. Or for Sheptone pickups, Sheptone.com. That's SHEPTONE.com. And finally, for Von Frankenstein Monster Gear, you can go to FrankensteinMonsterGear.com. That's VonFrankensteinMonsterGear.com. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and most of all, review this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And you know what? Please support Vintage Guitar Magazine and all the wonderful things they do for us guitar players, because, geez, they do so many wonderful things for us guitar players. Here's my friend Josh. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? What's your actual title? Owner?
Yeah. What? I mean, depends on what I'm doing, right? I mean,
yeah.
I own Vittek PR. I'm the founder, the CEO, the president. But if we're going to talk about Sheptone, I own that too. And if we talk about Von Frankenstein Monster Gear, I'm a partner with that one with Doyle of the Misfits.
Oh wow! Right on.
So, again, but
wait. So the one on your right. Which one is that?
On this side?
Yeah, you went. If I'm, he went.
Oh yeah, no, Sheptone.
Sheptone. What is Sheptone?
Sheptone is I make PAF humbuckers and single coils, vintage stuff.
Oh wow.
I'm not so overtly public with it. I mean, I don't mind that people know, but I have plenty of work. It's not something where I'm looking to take over Seymour Duncan or DiMarzio, right? It's just, it's the guys who know. With Sheptone, the guys who have Sheptone pickups, Brian Kahanik, who was an LA cat for a while, and then, Billy Gibbons has a set, and Slash has a couple sets.
Cool.
Bob Rock has quite a few sets in his studio guitars, that he uses for recording. Phil X, Richie Sambora,
wow,
Chris Traynor, Brian Adams. A lot of the tone. Yeah, a lot of the tone junkies, and of course, there's some people that I'm paid not to say their name.
Sure.
That's kind of pun intended, I guess. That's how I unwind from doing the PR.
I gotcha.
All day,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a tinker. I love to build things and rip things apart. And Shep, who had started Sheptone back in 2007, became a client of mine in 2008. And in 2015, he was wanting to retire. And I was just so burnt out on hustling, the cell phone and the keyboard and the PR shit, man. Sure. It was just, and I just needed a break. And playing wasn't doing it for me. There was just, not that I'm bitching or anything. It was just nothing that was exciting me to no exciting rabbit hole to go down to playing wise.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I had Dean Markley as a client, and we kind of reverse engineered that sound hole pickup of theirs.
Oh, right on.
And anyways, in talking to Shep, he was ready to retire. He was going to shut it down entirely. I just said, dude, I need something to do. This would be perfect because I can control the amount of volume and work that I do. I can control what I do. And he was very particular on making sure his recipes were would remain intact, and his kind of vibe that he had, which was kind of a quiet, not necessarily underground, but again, Sheptone is what it is.
Yeah.
I make great shit. The people who know it and love it, great. And I would say 75% of the customers are repeat customers.
Right on.
It's amazing. So anyways, that's what Sheptone is. So
okay, cool. And then to your left with Doyle.
Von Frankenstein Monster Gear. That's Doyle, Wolfgang von Frankenstein of the Misfits.
Sure.
He and I have known each other for quite a number of years, and I had originally been messing around with some strings and some ideas for strings, and I just wasn't happy with what I was getting as a player out there anymore. And so, anyways, I started screwing around with some string concepts. Nothing fancy, it's nothing revolutionary. But anyways, I started making strings, and a couple players started coming on board. And Doyle, for those who are not familiar with him, he's a big dude.
Yes, he is.
And he plays really, really fucking hard.
Yeah, he does.
And one of the problems, it's not a problem, how he plays is instead of striking the strings across the strings, he comes down on the strings. He hammers them. And literally when he does, and you look at his strings at the end of a set, all the strings are dented from the frets because he hammers down onto the fretboard.
Wow.
He beats the crap out of them, right? And so obviously a lot of strings break. So one thing led to another. He was looking for a string brand that could make him a string that wouldn't break. And so I screwed around with it for a little while, and that just led to, like all artists right now, it's important for them to expand their revenue streams,
sure,
right?
Of course.
Putting their brand on things. And so we came out with the Von Frankenstein line of strings because one of the obstacles he had and a lot of the other guys had was, in addition to a string needing to be durable, but yet at the same time sound good.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to accomplish. Especially with Doyle and a lot of the other metal dudes that are using heavier gauges and drop tunings.
Sure.
When they're traveling a lot and going from different climates, just like guitars and amps react, strings do too, and again the guitar does too, and it can wreak havoc on the guitars, especially again when Doyle, is sweating up a storm up there.
Yeah.
So he was notorious for having to go back and forth and maybe switch out a couple gauges throughout the tour, depending on where he was out and how long he'd been playing. So he likes to keep the strings in individual coils. And again, a lot of the manufacturers, in order to keep costs down, are going to, coiling them all up together and shit like that. So you just can't take one string out. So anyways, we went to a vacuum sealed. Each string is individually vacuum sealed in the set. So he can have, in his bus, he has a big ass case of a whole bunch of strings of a variety of gauges that he can change out whenever he needs. And he's not the only one. There are a couple other guys, and so that are like that with their touring rigs. So on that side, we got Jeff Loomis. We have some signature sets with Jeff Loomis, Gary Holt.
Wow. My neighbor
Andreas Kieser of Sepultura, the guys with Life of Agony, Joy Zampella and Alan Robert, Brody Dahl of the Distillers.
Wow.
I'm sure Logan Mader. And of course Doyle. And the problem with Doyle is because Doyle has, his own band and obviously the Misfits stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we have 3 signature sets, and that was one of the other things we wanted to offer the artists is, again, because all their songs over the years have changed as far as tunings and whatnot.
Yep.
Doyle has 3 signature sets. Gary has 2 sets. Loomis has 3 signature sets. We're coming out with a 3rd now that Nevermore's kind of back on the radar for him. Andreas has 2 sets. So anyways, that's what Von Frankenstein is. We just finished. He just approved a pickup.
Oh, right on.
So we're going to come out with a pickup under the Von Frankenstein Monster Gear banner. And, we're working on some pedal stuff right now. So that's what Von Frankenstein is. So,
Cool.
Again, it's that stuff, if we go back to all of my beginning, me being involved in a lot of that and the PR will make sense. It's just, I just like, again, dabbling in shit beyond just hustling the damn computer and the phone all day.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you right now?
I am out in my shop. We moved out to Central Illinois about 3 years ago from San Diego, where I was born and raised.
Oh, really?
Lived the first 50 years there.
Uh-huh.
Came out to Central Illinois. This is it's a little over 200 years old. I'm in an old carriage house that was on the property.
Wow.
That I've been slowly rehabbing and trying to close up so I can have some type of temperature control. It's not to the point where I want to leave my guitars out here just yet. But everything else is out here and it's fine. So out in the shop. So in one corner, I take care of Vittek PR and all this crap you see behind me. That's Vittek PR stuff over there. Sheptone over there is Von Frankenstein. So, anyways,
and how much of a culture shock is that to move from San Diego from 50 years?
Oddly enough, not much. I would come out and spend summers in Ohio, so I had an idea of what summer was like, and then. The last 5 years, I think, when we were in San Diego, we lived up in the mountains in Julian, where we actually had seasons. If you live in the flatlands of San Diego, it truly is 72 and sunny every goddamn day. But up in the mountains, you get seasons. You have all four of them. We get snow, and in fact, we got more snow there than I do here. We're kind of bummed that we don't get as much snow here. The ice sucks.
Yeah.
But it only lasts a day or two. And again, you kind of know when it's happening so you can prepare for it. And I don't have to commute. I just walk across the yard.
Yeah.
So if I was commuting, I may feel different,
Yeah.
But it's cool. I love it here. Where we grew up in San Diego, both my wife and I, we were in the rural parts of the county anyhow when we were a kid. So we like the smaller town. This town is 5,000 people. Moves a lot slower. I'm definitely the fastest driver here, the fastest talker here. And I get pulled over a lot here, and they just shake their head. But I dig it.
How close are you to like the next major town?
So St. Louis would be an hour south.
Okay.
And then Springfield, Illinois capital, is an hour north.
Okay.
Indianapolis is 3.5 hours east. Chicago's 4 hours.
Okay.
Driving,
Yeah.
Flight wise, everything's about 3.5 hours away from me. So
you're right in the middle.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, and I can get a direct flight pretty much anywhere.
Sure.
My clients don't necessarily need me in front of them all the time, but there's been a couple occasions where I've needed to get somewhere fast.
Sure. And
being here makes that a lot easier, actually.
Yeah. How far to Nashville?
It's a 6.5 hour drive, hour flight.
Okay. Right.
So, again, not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point where, if I drive for 6 hours, I need a day to rest and recover now. But anyhow, yeah. So Nashville, maybe even 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
But again, it's we dig it. I do miss the concept of mountains, but it's also at the same time totally cool. Like right now, when we go into winter and we're still coming out of winter, just to look across flatlands endlessly. That is so fucking cool. And the lightning storms are so damn awesome.
Yeah.
At night to be out in the middle of the field and just watch that lightning just streak all the way across the sky.
Wow.
That shit's so damn cool. I've yet to see a damn tornado yet. We keep looking, but in time.
Okay, so now the meat of it. How does a kid from San Diego end up being like one of the biggest PR people, for musical instruments?
I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, growing up in San Diego, North County area, again, I was a tinker, always taking shit apart. And that's just, again, we were kind of in a rural area. So, I was my dad's assistant when anything needed to be done around the house or on the car. Right. Yep. So, as far as I know, we just took shit apart and put it back together.
Yep.
So I had an uncle. Music's been in the house since day one. Music is playing nonstop in the house in every single room. And at that time we're talking, 70s stuff. So,
sure.
Early stuff is the Laurel Canyon stuff, like, the Eagles, Linda Ronstadt, Fleetwood Mac.
Yep.
Those kind of things. When we get in the 80s, it's a little more pop radio stuff, but, around 83, 84, my uncle was by and he was playing guitar and I was interested, right? And so he just showed me, basic walking bass line, blues line, basically from Blueberry Hill, right?
Okay,
on the guitar.
Yep.
And I played that endlessly for about 3 years. And so he eventually bought me a guitar. And it was a small 335 knockoff. And I took it apart.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Couldn't put the damn thing back together. So he bought me another one. And it was red. And again, 1984, the album comes out and I'm just mind blown. And that's my trigger. And so, of course, I take the red one apart to try and get some white and black stripes on it I can be Eddie. And then I have an aunt on my mom's side of the family who's working at Carvin in Escondido.
Yeah.
And she works on the assembly line there, building amps and mixers. And she started bringing me home parts so I can, like pots and tone pots, volume pots, and wiring harness kits specifically for a 335. And, talk about the wrong guitar to learn how to wire a harness on. Again, and that never got put back together. But it kind of snowballed from there, and obviously the Carvin catalogs.
Yeah.
In seventh grade at the junior high, there's a beginning guitar class. I take that, and by the end of the first semester, they'd move me to the advanced guitar class.
Wow!
'Cause I was just hooked, man. Yeah. I mean, that's all I was doing. It's literally, you look at my practice logs back then, 4 to 6 hours a day. All I was doing. And then, come 8th grade, really cool. The music teacher bought me a bass guitar, just an Ibanez import. And he said, he gave me a Stanley Clarke album. I think there was a Patitucci album. And he gave me the piano music for My Cherie Amour. And he said, go figure out a bass line to that, and I'm going to have you sing with the choir or perform with the choir. So, so that's me as a player, right? So I'm a player, the Carvin catalog, and as soon as I graduate high school, we have a little one already by that time.
Wow.
So I got a job working the assembly line at Carvin,
right on.
Building and assembling the X100Bs, the old, heads, the amplifiers.
Sure.
And those big ass FX and MX mixers, with the wood sides on them.
Yes,
fucking
of course.
48 channels that are this long.
I'm a child of the Carvin catalog as well.
Yeah, so building all that stuff. And eventually, while I'm there, again, we have a little one at home, so I'm hustling, right? Yep. I mean, my wife is too, but I got Carvin working the factory during the day, trying to go to school in the afternoons. That's really not working, and then a graveyard shift to keep money coming in, right?
Yep.
And at Carvin, I got the coolest job in the world. I'm the final tester.
Oh, right on.
At the end of the assembly line, I have my own sound room, and every day they would wheel in 30 to 100 X100Bs.
Wow.
And I'd have to play through them to make sure they sound cool and they pass all the specs, right?
Right on.
Yeah. So anyways, it got to the point where the graveyard shift, I kept coming in later and later.
Yeah.
And I was playing probably a little too more than I was probably testing.
Yeah.
So they let me go.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I went out into the real world and, got my Series 7 and 63 licenses for financial advisor, stockbroker. And like I mentioned, I was trying to go to college, trying to do the right thing. Again, young with a little one, trying to be smart. So I was trying to, I was taking some accounting classes, taking some legal classes, because back then when we had to look in the paper for jobs, first page was all accounting positions. And then, everyone needs a lawyer.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just guaranteed shit for as far as income in the future. But again, I never finished a class, dude. I defaulted, withdrew on every single quarter semester I ever signed up for. I just couldn't do it. But, anyway, so went out and did the stockbroker thing for a while. Do 12, 14-hour days. Fuck that, dude.
Yeah.
And seeing that lifestyle, and again, this is at the end of the 80s and early 90s. So, I was in an environment much like what we see in the movies, like in Boiler Room and even Bud Fox with Wall Street.
Sure.
And even Wolves of Wall Street to an extent. It was a grind, man. It was a grind. That's just not for me. And I just figured, shit, if I have to work 12, 14 hours a day, I want to be in the guitar world. Yeah. So I went back to Carvin, went to a different department, and begged for a job, and they gave me one in the speaker assembly department.
Wow.
And from there, it was my job. What I had in my head was, I'll do that. I'll work there for the rest of my life. I'll work and build shit in the factory, and at night I'll gig.
Yeah.
Right. And, my wife's a smart one. She's a nurse. So, she worked her ass off and got through school.
Yeah.
And she was a little more reliable than I was, or dependable, I guess. So anyways, that was going to be a lot for the rest of my life. About 5-6 months into it, started getting bored back there and started sticking my nose and shit where it didn't belong, and ended up in the sales department. And kind of worked my way up the food chain there. And then the guy who kind of was in charge of all the export distribution was going on vacation. I volunteered to cover for him just because that always just fascinated me.
Sure.
And did that and kind of started working with him. And then something happens over in the inventory part of things as far as inventory management, right? And so it was one of those things where, look, he's worked the factory before. He knows numbers. He's good with numbers. Let's put his ass back there. Yeah. And so I'm an inventory. I'm the inventory manager. I'm managing inventory for Carvin. Yeah. Right. They're at the time they're doing 20 million in revenue. We have roughly 4,000 pieces of raw material, just over 200 finished product. It's totally cool. Then the buyer leaves, and then they're like, well, you have that legal bullshit, and you kind of you can negotiate a little bit, so become the buyer. So I was like, okay, I could become the buyer. And then I stuck my nose in the marketing department and got a little mouthy on an opinion of an artist. Oh no. Yeah. A little bit further down the road, marketing guy leaves, and they're like, you think you can do a better job? And I'm like, yeah. So anyways, they threw me in the marketing department. And again, it goes from there. And so I don't know, well, I've said the story before, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing, as far as marketing goes. Yeah. And so one of the first calls that came in was Mike Melinda from Guitar Player at the time. He's editor of Guitar Player magazine. Again, 90s. Yeah. Guitar Player magazine is the Bible. For sure. That's everybody reads it in the whole world.
Yep, for sure.
And it's fucking Mike Melinda, man. And so I'm shitting bricks. Like, I'm afraid to pick up the call. It's Mike. So anyways, get on the phone, introduce myself, kind of confess to him that I don't know what I'm doing. And he tells me how to write a press release.
Oh, right on.
And more importantly, he told me what not to put in a press release. You know, I've been writing a press release the same way ever since. and so because I was a new guy, right, he sends down his ad rep, which at the time was John Levy. And so John comes down and he kind of gives me a crash course on marketing and advertising. And you know, so that's how I learned. And the artist stuff, just dealing with the artist relations from the marketing side, you just kind of figure it out, you know. I mean, they're people. And so, anyways, I'm sitting there for a couple of years and I kind of max out on what I can do there at Carvin. I'm not a family member. Everyone technically above me is family.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to replace them. I see the next generations coming in. Now I'm 28. Our daughter's now 10.
Wow.
My wife is, you know, has a stable job again in the medical world. So we agree that now's the time for me to chase that dream of being a musician, right? If I don't, we're all going to regret it, right? And so I do, and I make a living playing guitar throughout Southern California. I would, during the day, do jazz casuals. That graveyard shift I was referring to earlier. It was a graveyard shift to a retirement home. Right? Okay. I was a night manager, which is a great title for saying that you vacuum all 3 floors, scrub all the toilets, and you know, don't fall asleep. And so while I was there on the weekends, the activities coordinator would hand me a check and just say, hand this to the piano player. When he comes, right? So anyways, when I think about how the hell am I going to pay bills playing guitar, because I don't want to tour, I know that much. I'm a homebody. I started calling retirement homes, like, hey, do you guys pay musicians to come in? And they're like, yeah. And so I would literally do anywhere from 2 to 5 retirement homes a day. And I got myself to the point where, you know, I go into one area, hammer them all out, and then the next day, like, you know, again, on Mondays, I was in Palm Springs. You know, on Tuesdays, I was over in Riverside. On Wednesdays, I'd be out in L.A. Thursdays, I'd be down in San Diego. And I just hammer them all out. And then I got them all to where they're on a monthly schedule. You know, so first Tuesday of the month, I'm here. First, you know, whatever. And that was bitching because not just retirement homes, not just assisted living homes, but there are also these, I don't know what there's maybe a more politically correct name. I call them adult daycare centers. Again, where adults that can't be left unattended, you know, go, right? For a variety of reasons, whether they're brain aneurysms, whatever.
The mental care facilities.
And so again, I would just let them pick songs, because let me backtrack real quick. In preparation of, I'm going to become a professional guitar player, right? I think I have to be fucking bitching. Because again, remember at Carvin, I have guitar players like Alan Holdsworth and Frank Gambale,
Steve
right?
Vai.
And it's like, and Vai, right? And Tony McAlpine. So I'm busting my ass trying to learn these Tuck Andrus arrangements like Over the Rainbow and shit, right? So I go to the first place, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna kill it. I bust out Over the Rainbow, Tuck Andrus, my half-assed version of Tuck Andrus's arrangement. I perform it, and I'm like, fuck yeah, they love me. No one clapped. They just looked at me, and the lady walked out, and she said, "Hun, clearly you can play your guitar, but they have no clue what the hell you just played. Can you read music?" I'm like, yeah, I can read music. She walked over the piano book. She brought me over a songbook, Stephen Foster songbook, you know? And so, you know, cowboy chords and Over the Rainbow, Red River Valley and stuff like that.
Hey, good looking.
And, you know, hammer out a couple Hank Williams Sr. songs. And it was night and day, right? I played that. They lit up.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They loved it. And so when I finished, She said, can you do that again? I'm like, yeah. She goes, do you want more? I'm like, yeah. And she literally called another activity director at another facility.
Yeah.
And said, hey, I found us a guy who plays the right stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, so I'm doing all that shit and I'm doing all right. And teaching in the evenings, because that was way more money than actually playing in a bar.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I did play some, you know, when I was at Carvin, we had a band, what was like we called it Minneapolis funk. So we were doing anything Prince pre-Purple Rain.
Sure.
And all the stuff he also did with Maserati and The Time, Morris Day and The Time.
Yep.
We did some Ready for the World in there, and that stuff was fun.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah, and then, you know, there was a blues rock band that we had for a while, Wolf Trade, and a lot of originals from Richard Cruz, who ended up doing marketing at Carbon for a little while, but he also did graphic design for him for a long time. So anyways, I mean, there's been a couple of those bands too, but I am outside of that beginning guitar class. You know, no one's ever critiqued me on my posture or anything like that, and I just started losing the ability to fret with my left hand.
Oh no.
And ironically, at the time, going back to John Levy, the ad rep at the time over their guitar player, Gary Kaler of Kaler Tremolos,
sure,
who was also in San Diego County, had just acquired the rights back to Kaler Tremolos for business. He had sold it. The people bought it, were defunct on it. He got it back. He was trying to put it all together again. John Levy referred him to me. Gary called, and so I went to Gary and helped him put Kaler Tremolos back together again, right?
Right on.
So, and sorry, it's a long ways to get here, but
no, that's fine.
the problem with that at the time, this is now 2005, Kaler non-existent on guitars in production, right?
Sure.
I mean, Floyd Rose moved in and just monopolized it. And so while there are still some artists playing Kalers, Jeff Hanneman, Kerry King of Slayer, Victor Wooten, Jerry Cantrell, Alice in Chains, Les Claypool.
Yeah.
Younger generations have no clue what the hell it is.
Yeah.
So anyways, I need to get Kalers back on guitars again. So from a marketing standpoint, from a sales standpoint, I need to sell bridges. Quickest way to sell bridges is get the guitar manufacturers to put them on.
Yeah.
I need people to become familiar with the bridges, so I need to hammer out press releases. But when you hammer out a press release on a bridge, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
So it needs to be on a guitar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Now the downside is you put it on a guitar, no one looks at the bridge, everyone looks at the guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
But I needed to start, you know, we have the internet now starting to be a thing, and again, it's 2005, search engines and shit like that. So I just need the Kaler name out there.
Yeah.
So one of the things I would do is, talking with the manufacturers on putting bridges on the guitar. It's like, look, just build something for me. I will write the press release.
Yeah.
And we'll give you all the love. You just give me a paragraph in the press release where I can talk about the Kaler Bridge.
Sure.
It'll be you. You're the focus. We just need to ride your coattails.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where VTech PR starts.
Right on.
It got to the point where manufacturers were paying me on the side to write their press releases for all their other products.
Oh, right on.
And then at the same time, in 2008, I just kind of have this string of really cool things happen. I'm already kind of thinking about, what my next move is. And, I'm in Music Messe out in Frankfurt, and I'm sitting out there. And Mal Stitch, who is an old DC Rich guy, was kind of oversaw production there. And I was with Kerry King that year. And both of them just kind of made comments of, dude, you should start your own PR firm. Uh-huh. And I'm like, cool, what the hell's that? And Mal kind of explains it to me. And I came home and I went and bought some used textbooks for public relations. Uh-huh. eBay had just started, so I can get textbooks cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
And I read the textbooks on how to start a PR firm. And I ran into Elliot Rubinson over at Armadillo, who owns Dean Guitars, and I kind of told him what I was thinking, and kind of like, trying to make a living guitar. He just kind of told me, dude, you got to try.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to regret it.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay. And then he said, and when you do, call me. And I'm like, okay. So I did. In August, I left Kaler. In September, I started my own business, and I called Elliot. And Elliot said, give me a month. And at the same time, I'd picked up Solid Cables, which was a hand-assembled, high-end instrument cable out of Washington. Uh-huh. And the first press release Vittek PR actually sends out is Elliot, who owns Dean Guitars, also owns D Drums.
Okay.
And so my first press release is announcing that Vinnie Paul has come over to D Drums with an old signature kit, right? So that's the ball gets started, man.
Yeah.
And, 2008, the real estate market, the financial crisis, kicks us all in the teeth.
Yeah.
But between gigging, teaching, and starting the PR firm, I'm able to stick through it.
Right on.
And it just takes off from there, man.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, that's a long ass way to get there.
That's fine.
but I feel compelled to tell it because I don't know of any other way to do what I ended up doing.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Because for the most part, there really isn't anybody out there that has multiple firms like I do. I think there's one or two. I think there's one or two now. But it's just mushroomed and it's grown.
Yeah.
And it's been the coolest thing in the world. So from press releases to marketing, advertising to managing artist relations.
Yeah.
It's a blast. And as you've seen, when the NAMM shows come around, NAMM shows like my Super Bowl, right? Yeah. I mean, six months leading into it, I'm totally focused on kicking ass and hitting it out of the park at NAMM.
Yeah.
And then at NAMM, the success I have at NAMM kind of dictates the business for the next year because everybody kind of sees the results and it just goes from there.
Yeah.
So.
Are you the one who puts together the artists for the signings and stuff like that?
Yeah. When they're my clients, yeah. Like this last year when you and I met up for Spectre with Doug Wimbish, that was just kind of a last minute fluke. They were Korg USA, who's the distributor of Spectre. I believe they own them now. But anyways, they were running behind, so they just needed a little bit of help getting the word out, and that's where you get the press release about Doug being there.
Sure.
But yeah, like especially like the biggest ones, the most famous artist get-togethers that we've probably done are like the Dean Markley ones.
Sure.
With Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
Those were absolutely insane. Yeah, that was off the charts. But we had another one at Carvin where I had Timothy B. Schmidt.
Oh my God!
In my booth. In the corner and right on the opposite of the aisle was Samick, and back at that time, Paul Stanley.
Oh my God,
was an endorsing artist, and Tony De La Rosa, who did artist relations at the time. Paul and Timothy we didn't know it, but ended up being signing at the same time. And what we didn't know is they're friends.
Okay.
They're like close friends. Paul comes over, he's standing in the Carvin booth, and the crowd going nuts. Paul's jumping up on top of the cocktail table thing that they're epic shit. Then Chris Squire showed up from Yes, and so anyways, we have some fun, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how many brands have you represented? Do you know?
Total, I have no clue.
Yeah.
The most brands I've represented at a NAMM show is 28.
Wow.
I will never do that again.
Do you have to turn away business?
I'm in a position where I can turn away what I don't think is right.
Yeah.
Maybe for me, or if I can't do, if I don't think I can do what they're asking, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I turn away business. I'll find a way to make it work.
Sure.
Right? I now have two writers. I have a team of independent contractors where
of course.
I know that because, the business ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
So I have writers where if I'm slammed, I can find. I know this person does great with press releases. This person does great with blog posts. I also have a writer who is a drummer, a gigging drummer, and so when we have D-drum stuff, I can write a press release for a drum kit. But she plays drums every damn weekend in a gig.
Yeah.
And she's the editor of a dentist magazine, so she knows how to write. But she can just make it way better than I can.
Sure.
And so I rely on her, and I have 2 graphic artists when we have to do graphics. So again, I wouldn't say I turn down business because there's too much. There's actually not enough.
Yeah, of course.
But I'll get someone will reach out to me, and it's flattering, right? They come to me, but they have a product, and in my opinion, their expectations are unrealistic of what I can do for either the product itself, the time frame, or their budget. And I've just finally learned that it's just better for me to just politely say no.
How important is social media nowadays to you, to what you're doing?
It definitely is obviously important.
Yeah.
The value of social media, there's a lot of variables. Like, again, if an influencer, if you pay an influencer to create a video for you on Instagram based on their followers, I mean, there is some value there. To me, it's not as much as what they're getting paid anymore, just because that you make that video and it disappears within 24 hours. And it goes down in the feed. And while it may be in their profile, no one looks at their damn profiles. So I think social media still plays a vital role in getting someone's attention, but then we need to direct that attention to somewhere else where we can capture, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, part of public relations is the visibility. To me, that's the publicity side of public relations, is getting that visibility. But we also need to capture and keep the attention of those eyeballs, right?
Yep.
And that's the tricky part. And so social media, who am I kidding? Yeah, it's important. The value is shifting, and where you need to place your dollars and how you need to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's where everybody's at. I mean, shit, I was just at the airport and everybody's looking on social media on their damn phones. And so it definitely plays a role. Again, for me, I still think what would be traditional media, not necessarily print, but the authorities in a given industry, like vintage guitar, that still has more weight depending on the product and the intent, right? But I mean, I still think there's a value there. And so the press release, like I'll see stupid headlines, the press release is dead. No, it's not. Half the people you're sending the press release to are dead, but the press release is not dead. I should say the businesses you're sending those press releases to are dead, not the press release. But I mean, social media is important. I think it has changed substantially, and it is evolving, so it's going to continue to change, right, moving forward. So, but
let me ask you this then: how about celebrity relations? How important is it to have a celebrity attached to your product? He put his head down.
I fear I will shoot myself in the foot for being honest. There's not nearly as long as how do we get here, but there's a longer answer to this. For a manufacturer, an artist is only as relevant as you choose to make them. With all due respect to all musicians in the world, for every awesome rock star guitar player, there's another one standing right behind you.
Sure.
The industry, the consumers, and a lot of that, I can say that now because of the social media and internet. As a consumer, our attention is divided severely now. Again, back in the day, you know, it was only Guitar Player magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Guitar Player, Guitar World, and Vintage Guitar. And then I think after that was Guitar for the Practicing Musician, then Guitar One.
Premier Guitar.
Yeah, MTG, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when Brent started Hotline, and then it became Premier Guitar. But anyhow, it is still important to show somebody playing your product. It validates the product to someone who's not familiar with your brand or the product that you are manufacturing. But again, I don't think we will have the influence of the likes of a Eddie Van Halen on a Kramer guitar and a hot rodded Strat, again, just because the audience's attention is so divided now.
Yep.
Right? There were only 1 to 3 media outlets for an aspiring guitar player to get their information from.
Yeah.
And they came once a month.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we were all, you know, fixated on Eddie. And Eddie influenced so everything from there. And, you know, whether it's the consumer for guitar industry or any other industry, whether it's shoes and Michael Jordan, I just think those days are gone. You know, the Taylor Swift and the Beyoncés are probably the end of that era.
Sure.
You know, they started early enough where they could capitalize on that. But I don't think now a rock star has that much pull in getting someone to buy a product. And the consumer is a lot savvier now too.
Sure. And
the younger ones are a little more skeptical. They're like, yeah, how much did you pay them to take the picture with that shit?
Sure,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
So while I think it can bring credibility to the product, I don't think it's necessary, because I think you can run ads with a no-name player and be just as successful.
Sure.
Now, I don't think you can run ads with people who aren't players, because there was an acoustic guitar line that made specifically nylon guitars, and they run a series of ads, and in their ads were models who didn't know how to hold the fucking guitar. And I think that kind of shined through, right?
Yep.
So I don't think you can go that far. Guitar players and guitar products, we can't be that generic.
Sure.
It's too intimate of a product.
Yeah.
But again, that's the shitty thing. I mean, I stand by it. You know, a rock star's own, and the converse is just as true, right? I mean, for any rock star looking for a guitar brand to support and get support from, for every major guitar manufacturer out there, there's another one standing right next to him that can make a guitar just as good.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a very competitive market now. And so you want to be mindful of who you hitch your wagon to. And again, when it comes to individuals, well, and businesses too, you know, you just want to make sure it's somebody you want your brand really associated with.
Sure.
You know, so.
Yeah, that's great. How old is your daughter now?
Well, my daughter, she's 30-something. I don't know, 33, 34, 35, 90, 95. So she's going to be 35 in July. My granddaughter is 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are they still in San Diego, or are they out there with you?
No, they moved with us. This was kind of part of what, oddly enough, man, Heather, my wife, and I, we had this conversation like when we first started dating when we were 16 about leaving California and getting a big plot of land with multiple houses so we can have multiple generations on. Right?
Oh, yeah, right on.
And I don't know why the hell that was in our head, but we tried it again back in 2008, and we figured if I'm going to start doing this shit and whatever, we're trying to do it out with a property in Maine, but again, the property market flips upside down. We couldn't get out from under the house in California. So anyways, opportunity comes up again 3 years ago. And this property that we ended up getting, you know, again, it's a 200-year-old property. The family who founded this property 200 years ago is the same family who owned it up until 3 years ago.
Wow.
And it's just gone through generations.
Sure.
And So it has 2 houses on it, the main house, and then there's a house on the back. So my daughter and granddaughter live in the front house. My wife and I live in the back house. And like I said, the old carriage house is here, and so I'm converting that. And basically the top floor of the carriage house is, again, work, where I do all my work stuff. And then the bottom floor is basically the wood shop and everything, to where I can fix everything that I need to do to rehab 2 200-year-old houses. That, because nothing's been done to them, so they have a shitload. I have a shitload of work to do. So no, they're with us, man, and it's bitching, and we're just that way. We wouldn't have done it without them. And again, our daughter's a nurse, so she can work anywhere.
Oh, right on.
Right, and now, I mean, as she became a teenager, my wife stopped working and was taking care of her on a daily basis. But now my wife, is my administrative end, chasing all my paperwork. So, we're here. It's cool. Again, we love it. I mean, just before I got on the call, I had 7 deer laying out in the field right here behind me. Anyways, but yeah, it's all good, man. It sucks being away from mom and dad. Both of our parents and our sisters are still in California. It really does suck, but I just genuinely feel, and so does my wife, this is where I belong. I mean, don't get me wrong, California's cool, and I will always have my California mannerisms, whatever they are. But I just know that most of the people that I've always been closest with happen to be, people from the Midwest, and it just vibes with me a little bit better. Again, the ice sucks, the humidity sucks, but I don't have to deal with that shit, so I'm good. So anyhow,
and so during the course of NAMM, for you, NAMM probably starts like Tuesday or before
as
that?
Far as literal show,
as far as being
Wednesday. So Wednesday is media preview day. What they do is, before the actual show, where the show is open for people to walk the booths and everything on Thursday. Wednesday, NAMM selects certain products that would be of interest to mainstream media, like the local news channels, the Wall Street Journal. So maybe it's not the latest, I don't know, guitar amplifier. But if it lights up and makes crazy noises and looks cool to people who don't play musical instruments, that's the shit they want there, right? To bring attention to the show.
But my question to you was going to be, do you have to pay for a meal starting on Wednesday, ending on Sunday?
No. No, I don't. It's pretty. That is a fringe benefit. There is always a meal and a drink somewhere, right? So,
that's great. Hey, Josh, it's been nice talking to you. And
thank you, buddy.
I always love all the stuff that you send out, because it's very informative about the new products and stuff like that. And you always, everything you do is a class act. And
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. That means the world to me.
And I'm glad I had this opportunity to meet you, better, and get your backstory.
I appreciate it, man. I'm flattered, man.
Well, thanks, Josh.
Thank you so much, man. You have a good one.
Thank you very much.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Have Guitar Will Travel. You can catch up on all the things I'm doing at thedeadlies.com. And I'm on all the social media platforms as well. And please support Vintage Guitar and all the wonderful things they do, because they do many, many wonderful things for us guitar players. Thanks. Please subscribe. Please tell a friend. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.